Hey, it's Mike. Thanks for tuning back in. Well, I guess this won't be all that quick video, but I'm doing it this way again just to save myself some time and hopefully get another video out instead of not putting a video out because I can do it this way a lot quicker. Last time I overlaid the emails. Well, let me explain to you what I'm doing first of all. This is the second part of your favorite childhood sports cards. And I asked you to tell me the story of them and send me the photo of them. And I have another, I think I did 13 in the first one, and I think I have 12 or 13 here today. So I really love this, and I hope you guys do too. The first one got great response. It was a while ago. It was like 6 or 8 weeks ago, maybe it feels like. So this one, I'm going to close the loop on this. And then I also have your oldest cards stories, which I'm hoping to do next week. I have so many things that I've got to do, and I get overwhelmed. So I'm going to get started right now. I have last time I overlaid the email text while I read it. I'm not going to do that this time. I'm just going to put the photos. Chris Sewell does this so well. He just puts the photo and then reads over it. So I'm going to do that, and that's it. Let's get started here. All right. First one is Chad. I'm going to skip over the the nice things that people say about my channel, except in one of them because it's really funny. So Chad says, I grew up collecting in the late 80s and early 90s and just got back into it in the past couple of years. Fortunately, I kept all of my cards from my childhood. My favorite card has a bit of a tragic story. At least that's what it felt like as a 12-year-old. It is a 1991 Upper Deck Michael Jordan SP1. At the time, I was a big Upper Deck fan. Who wasn't? And was buying packs whenever I had money. When I pulled this card, it surprised me because I didn't know this card was in the set, nor did I know what an SP was. Of course, now we know SP is short print. He continues, I thought it was the coolest card and probably the most valuable card I owned at the time. However, I didn't have penny sleeves, top loaders, or anything like that to protect them. I kept it out of my dresser until I could get my parents to take me to a card shop to get something to put it in. Of course, I get in a stupid argument with my brother, pillows are thrown, and the Jordan ends up falling on the hardwood floor, resulting in a creased corner. You can see it clearly in the pictures. I still love this card, even though it is damaged and isn't as rare as I thought it once was. I still keep it displayed on a shelf. That's my story. Yeah, great, great card. I have a few of these. None of them have the same stories that yours has. That crease, quite a memory. Love that stuff. Next one is from Dan, who is a longtime subscriber, great contributor to my community. He writes, here are the pics of two cards that got me collecting in the first place. To recap, these two players had cards in a Milton Bradley board game I got in 1969 for my 10th birthday. By 1970, I was collecting. I had sets back to 1970, and in 2022, added the 1969 and 68 sets. These two cards are part of my 68 set. And these are the 68 Reggie Smith and Rod Carew Topps All-Star rookies. Yeah, I love in almost all of these cases, these emails, not there isn't a whole lot of value to these cards. They're just your favorites because of the stories, and that's what I love. Next one is Glenn. This is my favorite card from my childhood. I bought this card raw back in the day at a card show and got it graded this past year and got a PSA 10. It was Pat Henkin, who was a solid pitcher for the Jays back in the day and won a Cy Young. Although not his rookie card, I love the eye appeal of this card from the 92 Fleer traded set. Yeah, I mean Henkin was not only solid, he was quite good. Obviously not Hall of Fame kind of guy, but he did win a Cy Young. He was a very good pitcher for quite a while. So cool card. Thanks, Glenn. This one's from Jason. I have two favorite childhood cards. The first is the 1958 Topps All-Star Mickey Mantle card. And side note here, completely coincidentally, I posted this card on my Instagram, not his, but my own, on my Instagram today. And then I was reading his email, and I was like, "Oh, what a weird coincidence." So you can check that out on my Instagram. The first is the 1958 Topps All-Star Mickey Mantle card. It was the first, what I would call a big card in my collection. I worked a summer in 1988 when I was 13, detasseling corn. Man, what a job that must be. And I used some of my earnings to pay for it. I paid $50 for it at a local card shop and still have and love this card. It also made me want to get all of the other 1958 All-Star cards, which I was able to do over those next several years. Yeah, I love those 58 Tops All-Star cards. I'm trying to collect all of them, all the Hall of Famers in SGC slabs. Jason continues, my next favorite card is the 1975 Topps George Brett rookie card. I was born in 1975, and George Brett was my favorite player growing up. I have two in my collection, one I keep in my 1975 Topps set, and one I keep with all of my better cards. I remember paying about $50 each. I got one from a local card show in Evansville, Indiana, when I was about 15, and one I bought at a card shop when we were on vacation and stopped in Frankenmuth, Michigan. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. I know that some of you will surely tell me in comments. But yeah, the George Brett classic, surprisingly good centering on that card too. Next up is from Ira. Uh, yeah, this is the one that has a funny story. He says, your content is top notch. I love it. Thanks for taking the time out of your day to provide great card collecting content. I appreciate it, even if you are a Red Sox fan. Thanks, Ira. Back in 1961, I was 10 years old trying to get the entire set of cards, which eventually would be thrown out by my parents. Very common story in the 1960s. I needed one card for what I believe was the fifth series. I had bought many packs only to get double after double. I had 15 cents from returning. Oh, sorry. I had 15 cents from returning bottles for deposit and was planning on buying three packs the next day. That night, I prayed to a higher power to get that card. Next day, I went to a local candy store, and the first pack I opened had that card staring me in the face. Ralph Terry was that card. I'm attaching a picture of the card, which unfortunately is not the original, but it's looks to be in Ira's set there. And funny, he's got Clemente right next to it, and that's not his favorite. It's the one that comes with the story. So well done, Ira. Thank you. Next story is Luke. He writes, while I was collecting baseball cards living in Australia, cricket cards were also a major part of our collections. One card from my collection features Don Bradman, often referred to as cricket's Babe Ruth. Bradman lived into his 90s and had a numbered auto redemption in the 1998-99 select set. I've continued my passion for even have a small YouTube channel with 61 followers called Cricket Cards, youtube.com/cricket cards. If you're interested in learning more about some of the sets and cards over the years, please check it out, he says. And then he includes the photos of the card, the cricket card, but also a photo of Don Bradman meeting Babe Ruth in 1932. Neat. Next up is Christian, a relatively new viewer to my videos. He says, I thought I would share my favorite card with you for your video. I'm a lifelong collector. I've collected nonstop since 1981. My gateway was collecting the Topps baseball sticker books with my dad in 1981. That continued for a few years until I discovered cards and continued to collect both. Part of my joy of collecting came from going to games, card shows, and card shops with my dad. Every once in a while, he would pull out his childhood collection and we would flip through it together. He would always focus on and tell me stories of the Detroit Tigers of the past. One of the cards that he had in his collection was this Reggie Jackson rookie card. It's a card that we would look at a lot, check the value in Beckett, and talk about. Fast forward to my high school graduation. As a gift, my dad presented me with two envelopes and the choice that I can pick one for a graduation gift. I had a hunch that Reggie was in one of them. I chose correctly as I got the Reggie. I found out later that the other envelope had cash in it. I definitely won that one. Sometime in the early 2000s, a friend got it slabbed for me to preserve it. It's a BVG 2.5, but will always be a 10 to me. Love that, Chris. Thanks for sharing. Next up is Michael. There are a lot of Michaels in card collecting. So, Michael writes, I wanted to share my favorite childhood card. I got this card, 1962 Topps All-Star Hank Aaron, as an 8 or 9 year old in Greater Boston. It had been sitting in a box in my parents' home until a few months ago when I found it. Got it graded by SGC, and it's displayed along with a book called Henry Aaron's Dream by Matt Tavares. Generally speaking, a youth author. This card will definitely be staying in my PC. Yeah, you get that card a long, long time ago. You get it graded, and it's a 6.5. Pretty impressive. Great looking card. Very cool. Thanks, Michael. All right. Also, a Michael, but a different Michael. And this is a very long one, so I'm going to cut this one short. But this Michael has some great stories as well. I couldn't just pick one card that was my favorite childhood card. I have a couple to share. I have three all-time favorite baseball cards: the 1986 Donruss Jose Canseco, 1989 Upper Deck Ken Griffey Jr., and the 1973 Topps Mike Schmidt. These were always my favorite and still are. I think every kid that was a collector around that time was after the Canseco and Griffey. 100% right. Watching the Bash Brothers in the late 80s and 90s, they were just cool. Late 80s, early 90s, me and my friend used to save up money from cutting grass, shoveling driveways, any way we could get money to use for cards. On the weekends, we used to take the bus to the place we had in town called Grand Slam USA. That was the place to go when we were kids. They had a card shop, batting cages. They also had indoor hockey leagues and a basketball league. I haven't thought about that place in forever, but I can just picture it now. The smells, the sounds of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles arcade machine playing in the background. Awesome. So we would take what money we could get, go into the card shop, and just look at all the cool cards. We couldn't afford all the good stuff, just look and end up buying packs. The Conseco in the late 80s and the early 90s was like $100 or more. We could just look but never get. I wanted that card for years. Finally found a kid at school that wanted to trade it. I can't remember what I gave for it. It was a lot, I know that. Always loved that card. The Griffey, I would always end up buying packs at Grand Slam for about a year. Never could pull it. I couldn't buy a wax box, so just a few packs when I could. After a year of still not pulling it, I saved up enough and bought it. Those two were my favorite baseball cards growing up for sure. Around 95 or 96, I wasn't collecting as much, a few packs here and there, but that was it. I ended up selling those two cards. Can't remember for how much, but don't have those exact two anymore. I kept most of my original collection, just sold a few to make a couple bucks. In 98, when McGuire and Sosa were in the home run chase, I got the collecting bug again, dug out my old McGuire cards, and the first cards I went back after were the 1986 Donruss Canseco and 89 Upper Deck Griffey. Had those ever since. Every time I see a good deal on a Canseco, I have to grab it. Just love it. It was the cards that got me into the hobby. And Michael goes on to tell another story about Schmidt being his all-time favorite player. He played third base in Little League, so wanted to play like him. So great stuff. I'm sorry, Michael. I'm cutting this one short, but great, great stories. And then Jim, who is another great contributor to my community on my channel. Jim sends me his 1968 Brooks Robinson saying, "My dad is and always has been a huge Baltimore Orioles fan. Hope they're enjoying the playoffs or will be. And so am I," Jim says. 1968 was the first year that I collected baseball cards. Brooks Robinson is one of my dad's favorite players. And when I got that Brooks card from that Topps pack, that just made it even better. I was hooked on collecting and I've been buying and selling baseball cards since. I got to see Brooks play in person when my parents took us to Memorial Stadium. So that 1968 Topps card of Brooks has been in my collection for a long time. I have all of his regular Topps issues with the exception of the 57 and 67 Topps. I have met and gotten Brooks' autograph several times, and he is very approachable. Of course, this was before Brooks Robinson passed away, unfortunately, last week. One time I went up to a store opening, and I was the only person there to meet up with Brooks for an autograph. I talked to him for about 10 minutes before anyone else came by to see him. It was a pretty awesome experience. So thank you, Jim, for sending that. Great story. Uh, Rest in peace, Brooks Robinson. Next up is Derek. He writes, "I saw your video on favorite childhood cards and immediately started to laugh because my favorite card is the 1985 Topps Gary Pettis that's prominently displayed as seen in the attached photo. I pass by these cards every day and smile. Have you heard the story of this card?" I hadn't, actually. He writes, "Turns out it's not Gary on this card, but it's his 14-year-old brother. He just happened to be there the day a photographer for Topps was there taking pics for next year's cards. I guess he thought I guess the photographer thought the little brother was on the team, and a year later he's on the card. Can you imagine being an early teenager and being on a major league card? That's crazy. I was a kid in the 80s and thought that was the greatest card. Also, the yellow card beside it is the 87 classic Andre Dawson card of him getting hit in the face with the ball. Such an odd, crazy card, but ones that make me laugh. It's funny to think that after 30 years of collecting, one card from my youth still stands out." Yeah, I wasn't familiar with that Gary Pettis card at all. So very cool. Nor was I familiar with the Andre Dawson card. And this one's short. This is, and I hope I pronounce this right. He doesn't give a name. It's just M. Lidioff, maybe? He writes, And he includes a photo of himself with his favorite card. My favorite team has always been the Yankees, started collecting in the early 80s. With that said, anything from Don Mattingly, 84 to 85, was really cool. Awesome. Thanks for sending all of these, guys. I love doing these. I wish I had as much time. What's the old saying? Your eyes were bigger than your stomach. Yeah, that's my ambition for doing these videos is much greater than my capacity for doing the videos. So I am hoping to get a TTM back soon. It's been out way longer than I ever expected. And I'll do a video about my favorite cards from when I was a kid. So I hope you're subscribed. Let me know what your favorite story was here in comments. Thanks very much for watching.